I thought this would be a good time to like make a short little video about the topics that have been on my community line. So basically, it's the what I see with a lot of people, right, is societal expectations and then the conflict with the self, right? The world feels like it's becoming less compassionate, less human, more demanding, right? Forfeiting one's humanity for imposed rules, right? And this also goes along with the other topics that have been going on the community post this week. So, in case people don't know what the comment was that I was talking about, I'm gonna read it under the media that I posted because media is very important to the brain, right? It can alter decisions that you make and your awareness, right? Media should totally be used for self awareness. And it's a very helpful tool in the self, right? And there's a lot of look at people who create art or create music or put something creative out into the world. Like one of the voices of the collective consciousness, right? Because they are a piece of the bigger puzzle. And so depending on what pieces of that puzzle that you look at can very well determine how you view um, your existence, right? And the people in it. So if you turn on like standard media, um, it's just negative, right? You can see that you would think that this world had no good in it, and you would think that the world is just in chaos, wouldn't you? And that's not true, right? It's just that the focus isn't being put on what it needs to be put on, right? Or what would be beneficial or helpful for a peaceful society, period. Because it's not like it doesn't exist. It exists. It's just that's not what you're being fed, right? So this guy said on the All We Do by Wonder video that I posted, yeah, he said, I hate my job as a police officer and listen to this every morning just before work, and it helps. This past Friday, I performed a traffic stop on a car making a turn where the sign said no turning. I asked for her license and it came back suspended. She started crying and I saw why. She had a newborn baby in the back seat and she thought I was going to take her in, which I could have. I let her go. I could tell she was just getting off work. She was relieved and she probably was barely getting by and couldn't afford to pay her tickets. I handed her my business card to contact me if she gets stopped in the area. This is very interesting, right? Very interesting, because this goes back to an old issue that maybe I'll bring up some other time, right? But this is how it all started, right? This is how it all started with hiring the poor to penalize the poor, right? If you make them feel like they are better than their fellow neighbor or brother or sister, right, uh, then there's a sense of superiority and power that goes along with that, right? Um, and companies do this all the time. That's the whole reason for the structure of the management and the peon, right? That's the whole reason for it. And there's a problem with that, right? Because although he may make just a little bit more than, you know, people just struggling to like keep it together and make ends meet, right? They're not that far apart in circumstance, right? Sorry, my cat's like fighting, kind of threw me off. Um, there's the illusion that you have no choice, right? My job says, right? Like his job says, if you pull somebody, it's very black and white, right? They don't want any human compassion, the things that feed the soul involved in this process, right? That doesn't make for good slaves. It doesn't make for good. Doesn't it just doesn't work for them? And so they create these archaic rules, right? And they're very rigid with them, and they expect you to enforce them. That's the only way that it works is if you enforce them, right? Because it's not the ones with all the money that are there making this decision, you are. So they're basically getting you to go against your own humanity, right? Against your own soul, against your own heart, day in and day out, right? I encounter this a lot at my work, right? Because I'm in a position of like who comes in and who can't. And you know how I handle that? I put myself in their shoes, right? Like, there was a young boy, he was coming to pick up his mother, right? Clearly they're immigrants, Asian immigrants actually. And he gave me his mother's phone number so I could call her to see like if she was, out or whatnot. But I just thought to myself, I was like, it is really cold out. And I said, his mother is in there on her feet, like for all these hours and yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm not going to make this more difficult, right? I know she's in there. I know she works for the company, right? And I know that her son is here to pick her up, right? This is a family that is clearly, why make it harder? Why make it harder? So he's fine, right? Now, do they have rules around blah, 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 blah? Yes. But I am there and I am making the decisions, right? And there is room for that compromise, right? There's room for that compromise. It's you want me to uphold this rule because of this, right? Well, if I call her and I, validate this, then there is no conflict technically with upholding your rules and being a decent person, right? The illusion of you don't have a choice or using that as an excuse is just an excuse. It is, right? It is. There is people who the only power that they have is a little bit of power that they may have in their positions of employment or whatnot, and they will use it to the fullest degree, right? There is a guy at my work, and out of all the times, right, that I am on it, right, I guess one day, like one of my gates was up, right, and he had to stop and say something, right? But there's a conflict here too, right? They expect me, like whenever I need to use the restroom or something, right, to have those down and their employees to wait on me to come out, right? And the employees will honk their horns. And that makes me anxious, right? But there's also no human consideration to the fact that when I was smaller, I was allowed to use the restroom. I was deprived of these basic things, right? So I already get anxious. Like, if I need to use the restroom too much, this is like constant. This is like something that was so traumatizing to me that it is a big deal to me, right? It's not a big deal to the common person, but because it's something that I experienced, like this gives me anxiety. So here lately, I have been putting both of them up whenever I go use the 2-3 minutes that it takes me to use the restroom, yes. And I am completely prepared to stop anyone wanting to wield their, whatever, right? Because it's inhumane to, and it's dumb, right? It's dumb to hold up these people who need to get to where they're going and inconvenience me from a basic human function, right? Um, because of your archaic rule, right? It's dumb. So I just put them up. They can go on through, get what they need to get done. 2-3 minutes it takes me. I'm not disturbed. Um, it doesn't inflame my anxiety, right? Everyone's happy, right? We allow, we have allowed people to strip our humanity from us. And another thing is, if we talk about difficult topics, right? Or if I'm bringing up something and it's constantly brought up, what we are doing is transmuting the energy, right? Very difficult things take time. They have to be revisited multiple times, right? And as long as there is progress, as long as there is progress in the vibration and the frequency around it, then it's fine. That's what you're supposed to do, right? But if you bring up a topic and you keep going over it and there's no progress, then that's where the issue is, right? Because evaluation of the self and growth of the self will allow you to reshape your perspective around any given situation, right? Because the goal is to get to a peaceful state where you are peaceful and you understand why something happened, what it's teaching you, and what you can learn from it, right? And you can't gloss over those things, right? You can't pretend like you fixed it. It will stir inside you. And I think a lot of people are just very unsettled with like very difficult things, right? Because I know that I am. I've had to work really hard to bring up the vibration and to reshape my perception and perspective, right? And how I am able to do that is measuring it against my own experiences, right? Where, see, there's so many people that are willing to be like hypocrites, but that's exactly where that self-awareness and self-evaluation, that's exactly where the answer to peace is. It is, right? Like, I could be upset with someone all day long for doing something and then find myself in that exact same situation, right? And then I am able to gain some compassion for them and empathy, right? Because, well, I just found myself in that situation. Like, what would I want in this moment, right? Would I want for someone else what I wouldn't want for myself? No. And that is a mantra that I use religiously. Right? I would not want for you what I would not want for myself. So I operate in the world in a way that what I want for others is what I want for myself, as if I am dealing with people as if they are me. Yes. And it makes it a lot easier to like confront these issues whenever you feel like you're constantly looking at a mirror, right? And these people are bringing up things. It is bringing up something within me. What do I need to evaluate? What do I need to analyze? Like, where can I make improvements on my perception and my emotions around this interaction, right? Because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what you're here to do, right? Is to basically undo. You come into this world in a peaceful state, right? And then you have to work to get back into that peaceful and innocent state, right? Because there's a lot that happens, you know, from there to wherever, yeah. So the things that you see in my videos is a result of this deep spiritual work, right? It is a result of very hard and deep spiritual work. So if you want this world to be more exciting than what it is, then that's where you have to go and put the effort into, period, right? It's not it's not the material stuff, it's not the money, it's not the job, it's not the impressing others who are still have a lot of work to do, right? We are our greatest project. I am my greatest project, right? Facts. Like, it's amazing what you can do when you just let go of the need to control, especially the need to control things outside of yourself, right? right? And you'll find these little snippets of real information in these books that people are so adamant about sticking with, right? There's a problem in translation of how to apply that to your everyday living experienced life, right? It's not just a day a week. It's not just whatever, right? It's every moment of every single day, right? When I go into work tonight, it is what am I going to be challenged with? What can I learn from this, etc. What issue are you wanting me to pay attention to that is within me, right? Like at like 5 o'clock this morning, I got like really nauseous. It was absurd. Now, granted, the frequency work that I've been doing is probably more than likely, right? That's why I came home grounded myself, right? Like, I understand that. Like, I can recognize that. I have self awareness of this. Yeah. That I need to step away from this, reground myself, and then I can approach that again, or however, right? When necessary. I can feel the energy in the spaces that I am, right? It is very heavy. It's very hard. It's been very hard, right? So I have a problem. I need a solution. Yes. Well, oddly enough, while I was sleeping today, right, like one thing that I wanted to do was like, I'm going to rest really well, right? And then my cats, and then somebody knocks on my door, right? But the guy who knocked on my door was bringing me something that is relevant, something that I will need, right, for this next whatever. I sort of kind of have a plan, right? Um, but he woke me up, right? But he gave me what I needed or what I will need, you know. So there was that. It is less about that, more about how did I handle that, right? I put my cat outside, the one that was causing problems. And then whenever the other one caused problems, I put that one out and let the other one in. I opened the door to the gentleman and I said, I work third shift, right? He doesn't know that. Why would I get angry at him, right? He doesn't know that. He's just doing his job, right? My shift is weird, okay? Like, so I grabbed the thing because I do need it, right? And his phone number is on there, right? So whenever I need that, I will call him, right? So we don't have any control over when, right? But, you know, I don't know. Just, it helps if you pay attention to the order of things, right? Just like I am in an area right now that looks like, with the exact school, the exact mascot of my middle school, or my high school, actually, my high school. I drove out there last night, right? Do I think that kind of like ties into the energy, whatever? Sure, I could see the parallels for sure, right? You can. That means that there is work, right? Inner work that needs to be done to like heal some areas. That's all. So I come home. And this is called aromatherapy, right? Because it is a therapy. Got myself in order, right? Because I felt very sick at work. I brought my big book. I spent $100 on this beautiful leather bound Indian paper book. It's beautiful. I brought my uh, watercolor pencils, right? I haven't put anything in this book. I've had this book for years. And I didn't put anything in it last night, right? I don't like to put anything creative into anything whenever I'm imbalanced, right? But as soon as I left, right, I started feeling better and better and better, right? There is an energy issue happening, and it is very difficult, right? So I have to find what it is and bring that up, right? I have to raise that vibration around whatever it is. And that's the thing. It is okay to touch and go on traumatic or difficult things as long as each time there is progress made, right? And a higher evolution of thought and feeling with the situation, right? Because the goal should always be a settled peace, right? There's a big difference in people running around yelling, you just gotta forget. No, no, that doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't do anything for inner conflict. It doesn't. That takes time and it takes attention. It takes compassion towards yourself, the situation, and others. Period. And when we are operating through the world, it is best if we think, how would I feel if I were in their shoes, right? And that will save you from life putting you in their shoes. Because life will put you in their shoes to teach you. And that's what it's all about. So that's why it's really good to focus more on the self than the outside. We can find relatable things, right? Like it's good to do a compare and contrast, right? But with algorithms and such, like as far as the technical stuff, algorithms are okay if you consume good things. If you don't consume good things, it's not okay. It's going to keep you stuck. Uh, Clearly, you see what the mainstream, what is broadcast to the world. It is not a good algorithm. It is violence. It is terrible things, always these fear inducing things that make you think the world is a big bad place, right? And you have no power.